Next weekend, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2 Eastern Time on NBC. Then we go to the road course in Watkins Glen, Michigan, and Bristol later on in the month of August. Back at Pocono Raceway, Pep Boys presenting the Pennsylvania 500 that is under the red flag after just 5 laps complete, 4 of those under the caution. A lap 1, turn 1 crash involving Steve Park, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Rusty Wallace, damaging that guardrail, and repairs continue. Yesterday, the NASCAR Busch Series ran the Net Zero 250 out at Pikes Peak International Raceway in Colorado Springs. Hank Parker Jr. put a little fuel strategy on him to get his 2nd career win. Parker Jr. running the last 114 miles on a tank of fuel.
And talking to all the guys in the garage here this morning, they marveled at the fact that Hank Parker Jr. was able to run that far on 22 gallons of fuel.
Championship picture did not change much because the top 2 in points, Greg Biffle and Jason Keller, finished back-to-back in the race. The Busch Series headed off to Indianapolis Raceway Park. You'll see it on TNT next Saturday night. That's always a good race, too. A little half-mile short track fender banging thing.
Only 1 caution flag yesterday. I don't think they'll have that problem at IRP. Probably a dozen caution flags.
For the best in Major League action, tune into the Superstation this week. The Brewers head south to take on the Braves Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 Eastern on TBS.
Pocono Raceway, Long Pond, Pennsylvania, under the red flag after an early crash involving Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Steve Park. Both drivers are okay. The fans patiently waiting it out as they continue repairs on the guardrail along the backstretch here on the 2.5-mile Pocono Raceway. A lot of people down here on pit road talking things over. Jimmy Spencer is here talking to Tony Glover and Michael McSwain. Jimmy, you're from Berwick, Pennsylvania, and you have a little message inside your car. A helicopter is currently landed because of the red flag situation, but you have a message on your dash.
Yeah, you know, we all know what happened at the mine here a couple days ago, and to think they got all those guys out and they're healthy. I mean, that's just incredible. The good Lord had their hands on them. And we put a little message in there. Chip called us up today and says, make sure you get something on that dash thanking those miners being back. And you know, it's close to Chip's home. He's right over here in Pittsburgh, and to think that all the people that worked hard to save those guys' lives is pretty special. And it means a lot of military. You know, there's so many military people coming to the races. They're big race fans. If it wasn't for those armed services across the water protecting us, we couldn't be racing. So there's just a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes of this country that I don't think that we give credit enough to. And for those guys not give up hope in that mine and knowing that all those men and women worked their tails off to save them. They didn't know if they were alive or not, and then they come out of there alive. That just goes to show you there's a good Lord above.
Now, I'm a New Jersey boy, and you're a Pennsylvania guy, so help me out. We're in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, Pocono Manor, Pennsylvania. Somerset County is where that was going on, I believe. How far away is that?
That's pretty far. It's a couple hundred miles west of us. We're in the northeast sector of we're near New York, New Jersey and stuff, Pocono Mountains, great vacation area, but yet Somerset is over towards Pittsburgh area, the other side of the greatest football team in all of the nation, Penn State.
Oh, man.
But then you got the Pittsburgh high school, Pittsburgh College too, but you know, it's over there on the western side, not far from Pittsburgh, great area over there, a lot of coal, West Virginia area, that's where it's at over in that part, so you know, a lot of quarries, a lot of hard work goes in there. A lot of people out of Pennsylvania work hard for a living over there, and I'm just glad those guys are all right.
Okay, man, thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Matt.
Well, Bill, Michael Waltrip sits 4th here on the grid, literally. Now, what does it do to a driver's psyche to have to start, then stop a race like this?
Well, you know, you just have to be prepared for anything. That's why experience is such a benefit. You know, you can't get too high at the start of a race or too low when something like this happens. You just have to keep kind of mental balance. And so I just think about my car. I was happy with it on my half lap I got to run, and was real happy with it yesterday in practice. So just optimistic that we can challenge today for the win. We've been consistent, but I want to race for the win, and I think we can do that today.
Now, your teammate Steve Park had difficulty getting out of his race car. That happened to you twice last year.
Yeah, it's a real issue, and NASCAR's addressing it. We've got to get these bigger roll cages on these race cars in order to allow better better in and out for the driver. I was going to say egress, degress, but I get confused about those. But so we can get in and out easier. It's really, really important. And also, I think it could be a benefit from competition-wise. It would stand the top of the car up higher, slow the cars down on the straightaway, create a bigger drag behind the car. So maybe drafting would come into play at more places, such as they do in the trucks at Michigan and so forth. So to me, competition is great these days. It's great to have TNT and Fox and NBC and everybody involved in the broadcasting of the races. You got fun driver personalities to watch. The thing we got to work on is just making the cars bigger, and hopefully that would just be a benefit in a lot of areas.
Now, you're a big dude, what, about 6'5"? It has to be more difficult for you getting out of a race car in a very quick situation than, say, maybe Mark Martin.
Well, that's why I've always been really an advocate for the bigger cars, and have gone to Mike Helton and NASCAR and told them over and over again what I see, what I think, because I'm going to notice things tightening up on me before Mark Martin is going to, because of my stature. You know, the cars have gotten smaller over the years, smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's really not necessary. You know, we've kept the wheelbase the same, basically. We can keep the engine size the same. We can dictate that the cars have to be a certain size. You know, GM, Ford, all the manufacturers in Detroit have downsized over the years. I understand that, but a race car doesn't have to follow those lines. It can still look like a race car and have a bigger shell for the drivers to get in and out of the car. So, you know, that'll be a real bonus to the taller drivers. And as you march forward, if you look at this sport in 20 years from now, you don't want the cars to continue to shrink where a guy like me might not even get a chance one day. You know, Richard Petty in his heyday stood 6'2" or 3" and weighed 230 pounds. What if it was 20 years from now and we never got to know Richard Petty because of his size? That wouldn't be fair to the fans. It wouldn't be fair to the driver who don't fit. So I think it's a real issue, and I constantly remind NASCAR my feelings on that. And so hopefully they'll listen, and we can. I know the ball's heading in that direction. I know they're working on it, and we can make these changes so that the cars will be safer. Speaking of safety, I'm glad my buddy Steve got out. I'm happy about that. I want to say hello to Blaze Alexander's family while we're here in his hometown. Tell him that we think about him often.
And they also dedicated the ARCA garage in his honor.
Yeah, Blaze was such a wonderful human being. Sorely missed by many people. And last night, Schrader and I talked to Danny Lasowski, and he's doing well. So it was good to hear Danny's voice, and just want the public at home to know that even though the world keeps turning and we keep showing up racing week in and week out, there's a lot of people that are here with us today in spirit, even though they're not here physically.
Now, for folks at home who may not know Blaze Alexander, he was a young man from Montoursville, Pennsylvania. He was tragically killed last fall at Charlotte in an ARCA crash. He's a very popular driver, best friends with Winston Cup star Jimmy Johnson. In fact, he has 2 different decals on his race car today in memory of his fallen friend. Marty?
Well, Matt, Jeff Burton had a little too good of a view of that wreck, and you brought up a great point to me. You have one solution that you think will help racetracks overall. What is it?
Well, I don't know. Of course, I hadn't seen the whole wreck. I've only seen little parts of it. But, it's rained a lot today, and the grass is wet. So when he did get on the grass, that wasn't a good thing. So I would imagine in the future we'd see, the back straightaway here get paved so that it would scrub some speed off. But, again, I haven't seen the wreck in its entirety. I've only seen from my perspective, and I came down the front straightaway once, and these big screen TVs that they have up, I got a chance to watch it from in the race car on replay, but I haven't analyzed it enough to truly make a statement. But I do know that generally asphalt slows the car down much more than grass does. People think when the car hits grass, it takes off, goes faster. I don't think it goes faster. I just don't think it slows down like it does in asphalt, especially with the grass is wet. But it's part of everything we do can be looked at and figured out how to make it better. And maybe that's a valid point. Maybe it's not.
And they've done that at places like Talladega, where it used to be grass and now it's asphalt. Let's talk about the inside of your race car real quick. And Steve was telling us how he was trapped inside the race car. How do you get trapped inside the race car with all this safety stuff? Take us through that real quick.
Well, again, I haven't seen the inside of his car, so I don't want to comment too much and say exactly this is what happened. I'd be speaking out of turn. But I do know that everything's made to hold the driver down and to keep him from going left and right, up and And when you get upside down, now there are all the weights on the belts, and it's hard to unhook your belts. And then with all the new head supports and all that, your shoulders actually sit below the head support. So when you do unhook and you're upside down, you fall on you, it hits your shoulders. So it's very awkward getting out of the cars when it's upright and normal. It's hard to get out of the cars today, much less when the car is upside down or on its side or whatever it is. It would just make it that much harder, I think.
We saw that guardrail get pretty torn up over there, and that probably did soften the impact a little bit, wouldn't you say?
Well, again, I didn't. I've said this.
Yeah, you haven't seen it. I know.
But I'm not a big fan of guardrail. But I didn't, in this incident, it may have helped. It may not. I don't know. We've continually taken guardrail out for certain reasons. In some cases, having if you hit it just right, guardrail is really great. And the majority of times, guardrail is not a good thing. But in this case, it may have helped it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just glad. I'm glad he's okay. It's a pretty big event, and it's good to see he's okay. He's had enough hard hits. He doesn't need any more.
Wally asked me to ask you if it's harder when you're upside down when you take the steering wheel out to get out. I didn't understand that question.
Well,
okay, you go, Wally. You ask him.
Well, I just said another thing when you're upside down is you've got to, when you undo the straps, you've got to take the wheel off to get off, and you've got that spline sitting right there that you don't want to
he's
fall
talking
on
about
either.
the spline. When you're upside down, that's in the way, too.
Well, it is. You've got the, in my car, I've got the steering column. I got a deal here to keep my legs from my knees from hyperextending in a big impact. I got a lot of things going here that aren't a big deal when you're right side up, but you get upside down, now you got to come out of this thing. Your legs are underneath the dash, they're all crammed underneath the steering column. It's just hard to get out of the thing, and again, it's hard to get out of it anyway. All the head supports are great for hitting. They're just not good for getting in and out. I actually, I've hurt my shoulder getting in and out of the car before with all the new head supports. It's part of it's part of evolution. We're making things better, but everything has a negative, and one of the negatives is it's harder to get out, and that's one of the major concerns people have in this system is if the car is on fire, how do I get out?
Yeah.
And it is difficult to get out. It's very difficult to get out. I guess you weigh your options and you say, okay, there's more opportunity to get hurt just from hitting than it is to catch on fire. So you try to take care of the majority of things that can happen, but there's ways. We need to continue to improve. That's the whole thing about racing in general. What we're doing today isn't going to be good enough tomorrow, not only in safety but in competition and everything we do. It's always evolving.
But the general consensus seems to be, Alan, that the bigger greenhouse would help in case of the fire Jeff talked about, and that's what everybody seems to think here on pit road.
Everybody sitting along pit road right now under the red flag as they continue the repairs to the guardrail inside turns 1 and 2. There's that sign inside Jimmy Spencer's car. Welcome back, miners.
Attaboy, Jimmy.
And a huge tip of the cap to the rescue workers who just persevered night and day and kept at it until they got him out. Glad that all turned out well. We'll come back to Pocono in just a minute on TNT. TNT's coverage of NASCAR coming to you today from Long Pond, Pennsylvania in the Pocono Mountain Range, where Pep Boys presents the Pennsylvania 500. Cloudy and cool overcast day. We only got one lap in under the green flag when a massive crash happened off of turn number 1 right in the middle of the pack. Rusty Wallace and Steve Park tangling, sending Park and Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car into that inside guardrail. They're trying to make repairs to that safety barrier now. All the drivers okay in the accident, but work continues so that the conditions are proper for resumption of the race.
All right, back here's where the crash is going to start. You see the one car gets pinned up against the wall by Rusty Wallace. He turns the 2 car into the wall. Now watch Ricky Craven, the Tide Rider, as he comes off. He runs in the back of the one car. Right there, he hits the one and turns him almost 90 degrees left. We can see the damage on the rear of Steve Park's car where Ricky Craven got in the back of him. So no wonder Craven has to go down pit road and make some repairs.
And all the damage to that guardrail, though fortunately, as we've heard before, the guardrail gave, and that absorbed some of the impact for Steve Park.
And again, the guardrail gave, but one reason that NASCAR doesn't use more metal barriers is exactly for this reason, because we've now watched him 1 hour try to repair the fence.
Another look at it. Seeing Ricky Craven's role there in the orange car. Wow. Park ends up upside down, as we've discussed, somewhat trapped in his car by all the safety equipment. Dale Jr. running